Hey man, there's a certain kind of man who doesn't just speak when spoken to. He doesn't respond immediately. He doesn't rush to answer a text, return a call, or offer instant validation. And at first glance, some people might think he's being cold, disinterested, or even playing games. But what they don't realize is that this man isn't withholding attention out of insecurity. He's using delayed responses as a tool of power, not to manipulate, not to create drama, but to spark one thing that most women crave more than flattery, more than romance, more than consistency: curiosity. Delayed responses are not silence for the sake of ego. They are calculated tension, and tension, when handled correctly, creates desire. See, when you respond too fast, too consistently, and without any sense of pacing, you remove one of the most seductive elements of communication: anticipation. And anticipation is where curiosity is born. She's not wondering what you're going to say because she already knows. She's not feeling pulled toward your energy because she doesn't miss it. You've given too much too easily. But when you pause, when you create space, when you let her wait just long enough to start wondering, that's when she starts leaning in. The man who uses delayed responses isn't passive. He's measured. He knows his value. He doesn't react out of excitement. He responds out of alignment. His pace is slow, intentional, confident, and because of that, his energy feels rare. She's used to instant replies. She's used to guys blowing up her phone. She's used to emotional availability that floods her system. But now she's waiting. She's checking her phone. She's rereading what she sent. She's wondering, did I say something wrong? Is he busy? Is he not interested? And all of that internal dialogue is rooted in one thing: your silence has created space for her to think about you. Most men rush to respond because they fear being forgotten, but the man who understands delayed response psychology knows you're only forgotten when you're too available. See, women don't fall for the man they always have access to. They fall for the one who creates emotional gaps, because in those gaps, she starts to fantasize, she starts to project, she starts to feel, and that feeling grows stronger the longer the gap is held. But here's the catch: it has to be just long enough, not cold, not dismissive, just enough to let her wonder. When you delay your response, you communicate calm control. You're not rushing to serve. You're not glued to your phone. You're not dropping everything the moment she reaches out. You're living your life. You're handling business. You're building your purpose. And when you do respond, it's with presence, not guilt, not explanation, just quiet confidence. And that man makes her respect you, because now she knows she's not your distraction, she's your option. And that feeling of being chosen rather than chased is what shifts the dynamic completely. Delayed responses also create contrast. She texts, and instead of an immediate flood of attention, she gets space. That space makes her heartbeat rise a little. It adds mystery. And when you finally respond, smooth, grounded, concise, it hits harder, because now your words are weighted. They weren't dumped out of urgency, they were chosen. That contrast between silence and communication builds rhythm, and rhythm is what makes a woman feel. She doesn't remember the guy who texts back in 0.3 seconds every time. She remembers the one who made her wait just enough to feel like she had something to lose. And here's the psychological twist. When you delay your responses, you make her question her position. She thought she had you figured out. She thought she knew where she stood. But now, your pacing is different. And that subtle unpredictability forces her to reinvest mentally. She starts thinking more about what she says. She puts more effort into her messages. She double checks her tone. Why? Because now she's not sure if you're slipping away. And that uncertainty creates curiosity-fueled attraction. She wants to re-secure her place in your attention. This tactic isn't about punishment. It's about preservation. Preserving your time, your energy, your attention. You're not just giving it to whoever asks for it. You're pacing it. You're making it mean something. And that meaning is what makes you different. Because in a world of constant connection, the man who pulls back intentionally stands out. He makes his presence felt. And once she feels it, she doesn't just want more. She starts earning it. Let's be clear. Delayed response is not ghosting. It's not emotional games. It's not being unavailable for the sake of control. It's being purposeful. You respond when you're ready, when your energy is aligned, when you've thought about what you want to say. That maturity, that slowness, it commands a different kind of attention, one that's deeper, one that sticks, because now your words aren't just casual conversation, they're moments. Even in-person interactions shift when you master this energy. She asks something, and instead of answering right away, you pause. You let the silence stretch, you hold eye contact, and then you answer slow, calm, certain. That pause, that gap in tempo, that's where she feels your masculine presence. It says, I'm not here to perform, I'm here to choose my words. And that subtle confidence, that restraint, it's a form of seduction that hits harder than any compliment ever could. Over time, delayed responses train her to value your attention, because it's no longer something she can predict, it's not on tap. It's not a guarantee, it's something she waits for, and that wait creates weight. The moment your message arrives, she's emotionally invested before she even opens it. She reads it slower, she analyzes it more, she holds onto it longer. Why? Because you didn't give it away cheaply. You made her feel the distance, and that distance became a container for her own desire to grow. You didn't force her to want you, you just gave her the time to feel it on her own. The man who responds instantly all the time, even if he has good intentions, ends up setting the tone that he's the one chasing. But when you respond with a slight delay, especially when she's expecting instant validation, you flip that expectation upside down. She doesn't know when she'll hear from you, and that unpredictability becomes addictive. Her mind starts spinning stories. Is he busy? Is he losing interest? Did I mess up? And every single one of those thoughts brings her attention back to you. You become the center of her mental world, not through force, but through space. Women don't fall for answers, they fall for questions. They don't fall for explanations, they fall for uncertainty with meaning. And when you delay your responses just enough, you create that perfect storm of mystery, maturity, and tension. She starts to realize you don't move for her, you move on your own timeline. And that kind of independence, it makes her recalibrate her entire approach to you. She stops pushing, she starts earning, because now she knows your time isn't just available, it's valuable. Here's what happens beneath the surface. Delayed responses build emotional authority. Every time you pause before engaging, you're communicating that your energy comes from within, not from her. You're not desperate to be heard. You're not rushing to prove your value. You're sitting back, breathing slow, responding when it suits your energy. And the moment she feels that, she starts following your emotional pace. That's leadership. That's how you go from being just another guy in her inbox to being the man who makes her feel something she can't explain. This also sets the tone for how she shows up with you long term. If she knows she can expect instant access, she'll start taking you for granted. But if she knows your energy is measured, she stays calibrated. She puts effort into her communication. She pays attention to her timing. She stops treating your time like it's disposable. And that's when you stop being entertainment and start becoming a standard. Because you've shown her, without saying it, that you're not here to be consumed. You're here to be earned. There's also something powerful about surprising her with presence after space. Maybe you go a few hours without responding, maybe a whole day, but when you do come back, your message is sharp, present, engaged, not overly apologetic, not trying to explain the delay, just you, as you are. That contrast between absence and full presence hits her deeper than any constant communication ever could, because it creates emotional rhythm. And rhythm is what makes a woman feel alive in your orbit. Delayed responses also prevent burnout. When you're constantly reacting, constantly available, you lose the mental and emotional clarity that makes your presence magnetic. But when you pace your communication, when you take moments to pull back, to regroup, to return to yourself, you recharge. You don't just protect your energy, you refine it. So when you do show up, you're not operating on fumes, you're operating from fullness, and she can feel that. Your words hit different because they're coming from centeredness, not emotional fatigue. One of the most powerful things a man can do in today's overconnected world is to be selectively accessible. That doesn't mean being distant for no reason. It means being intentional with your time, your energy, your replies. When you delay your responses, you're training her to tune into your frequency instead of expecting you to jump to hers. And that kind of pacing sets the foundation for mutual respect, not emotional dependency. Because now, she's not just receiving your presence, she's grateful for it. So if you want her curiosity to grow, if you want her mind to replay your silences just as much as your words, stop reacting immediately. Let her wonder. Let her sit in that space you left. Let her feel the emotional distance. And then when you return, don't flood her with explanations. Just show up like the man who never left himself. That return, the contrast of absence and re-entry, is where desire gets built, not through words, but through timing. Because in the end, delayed responses aren't about playing hard to get. They're about being hard to forget. They're not about punishing her. They're about preserving your power. And the man who knows when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to pause before answering becomes unforgettable. Not because he said everything right, but because he moved with purpose. And when a woman feels purpose in your silence, she won't stop thinking about what it means. That's how you spark curiosity. That's how you shift the dynamic. That's how you win her mind by giving her space to miss yours.